Welcome aboard, my good friends. I hope that you're having a fantastic Sunday afternoon. Kind of getting down here a little bit in the studio. Got a little Rocky playing. Welcome aboard, Graham Brown. Got a little Rocky soundtrack playing. What's up, Crimbolito, Whitbomb? You guys feel that, man? When the Rocky soundtrack comes on, you just get juiced. Welcome aboard, Boiling Springs. I love that, man. It gets me so pumped. Man, you know why? Because I was thinking about you guys today. I love that too, Graham, man. What a great inspirational movie. All the Rocky movies are so great. I had the privilege not too long ago of actually sitting down and watching them through with my son, who had never seen them. Of course, they were before his time, and we watched every single one of them start to finish together, and it was really cool. We had a great time. So, you know, that got me just pumped, man, and amped and feeling good. I was jamming in here just a little bit ago. And, you know, I was thinking about how sometimes we get in that negative mindset, you know, and we just got to get back to a positive place. We've all done it. I've been there. You've been there. Everybody that's done great things in the world, they've all been there. Everybody's been down. So we're going to talk about some things that you can do right now to get yourself from negative back to positive. So if you don't mind, tweet this out, share this out with your followers, and, let them know that we're in here and that we're going to be talking about going from negative to positive. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that music, man. Let me get this stand down here a little bit. Awesome. So let's talk about three things. I'm going to give you three things really quick because I've actually got to get to my mastermind group. Thanks for sharing, Boiling Springs. I appreciate that very much. I've got a mastermind group that I'm coaching right now on Sunday nights, and that's going to be starting here in just a little bit. So let's get to it. Three things that you can do to go from a negative mindset or a negative place to a positive place. The number one thing that you can do, if you're writing this down, number one, change your language. The first thing you've got to do is change your language. Hey, Miss Cassie, how are you? Welcome aboard. So we're talking about going from negative to positive. The first thing that you got to do is you got to change what it is that's coming out of your mouth, because what's coming out of your mouth is in agreement and associated with what's going on in your head and heart, right? So if we can change the language, you know, we start to back it up, we can change the situation. So, for instance, I used to be a person who was always overwhelmed, man. It felt like the walls were caving in on mine. Anybody else ever struggle with that? And you guys ever been at that place where you're like, man, I'm just so overwhelmed, I don't know what I'm going to do. And here's where that comes from. Those of us who have been historically overwhelmed, it comes from a procrastinating nature. There was something about me that was always waiting until the last minute to get things done. And that's why I was overwhelmed, because I was spending too much time playing and not enough time getting things done. So if you're the kind of person who is consistent and prudent and doing things day in and day out, you're going to find that you're not as overwhelmed. And stop confessing that overwhelmness. Stop saying it out loud. Get that word, oh, I'm overwhelmed. Get that out of your vocabulary. The second thing that I hear people say, and we're still on number one of changing your language, but sometimes people are like, they're always frustrated. I actually have a couple of people in mind right now that I hear them say all the time, man, I'm just so frustrated. I'm so frustrated about my situation, or I'm frustrated about with my day. I'm frustrated with how my day's gone. A lot of times you have a person that gets frustrated because they're unwilling to do the tasks that are set in front of them. What they're really saying is, I'm unwilling. But when we become willing to do the things that we have to do, when we become willing to press through our day, then all of a sudden our mindset shifts from one that's frustrated to one that's an overcomer, right? So like when we were listening to the Rocky music here a few minutes ago, that gets your blood juiced. And maybe sometimes, maybe you're not just needing to change your language. Maybe you need to like change the environment and turn on some Rocky music a little bit as well and get something exciting going on that will cause your mindset to come in alignment with a willingness to get the things done that you've got to get done. So number one, start to change your language. Don't be saying things like, man, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm frustrated. I know some people like they're always disappointed. Seems like they always get disappointed, and they have these this emotional reaction to disappointment, like, I'm just so disappointed in you, or I'm just so disappointed that didn't happen, and it's like sitting there in a state of disappointment. This is the way Mr. Ray Higdon says it, by the way. I heard him talk about this not too long ago. He said, when we come to that place to where we're disappointed, what we're really saying is, let me irrationally rebel against current results. I'm going to say that again. I got that from Mr. Ray Higdon. He said, let me irrationally rebel against current results. So when we just like stay in this place of disappointment, it's like, we're irrationally rebelling against a situation that we have no control over. So why spend time talking about it? Why set our mind on that thing and be talking about it so that we get so frustrated? So I'm not suggesting that you guys lie and say, oh, everything's awesome, everything's perfect, nothing's wrong, but find a positive thing to say. Instead of saying, I'm so overwhelmed, say, hey, you know what? I'm choosing not to procrastinate any longer. I'm going to get this stuff done. Or instead of being frustrated, and say, man, I'm so frustrated, say, okay, let me take a look and see what's before me so that I can get my task list done today. So number one, change your language. The number two thing that I want you to do is don't look at how far you have to go in anything in life. Focus on what it is that you can do next. Like, what is the next action that you can take? What's the next course of action, the next thing that you can execute on right away? So a lot of times what we do, like, for instance, when I was first starting to build my social media presence, I had not made $500,000 on social media. I think I had like a couple of hundred Facebook friends, not the 5,000 that I have now. I'm maxed out on Facebook friends now. But I looked at that mountain sometimes and it was like so overwhelming. I saw other people with a big social media presence and they had a lot of notoriety or popularity or people knew who they were. And I aspired to be great because I felt like I had a lot to offer and I wanted to get my message out to people. But I on the front end, I was looking at how far I had to go. It was like, oh man, I've got so long to go before I could ever max out my Facebook account, right? And fortunately, I've had a lot of mindset shifts. I've been able to, reprogram my thinking patterns by reprogramming my language and what I say. But now I also have reprogrammed how I think about it. So rather than looking at how far I have to go up that mountain, I just focus on the next step. What's the next step that I can take? What's the next, route that I can step over? What's the next rock that I can climb upon? What's the next curve that I can, find my way around? And just look at the path that's in front of you and just take that next little step of what is it that you can do right now. The third thing that I want you to do is this. Number one is change your language. Number two is think about the thing that you can do right now. What's that thing that you can execute on next? Number three is this. You got to get around the right people, man. You've got to get around the right people. If you're around the wrong people who've got the wrong mindset, if you're around complainers all the time, what are you going to do? I mean, if you're sitting around somebody who's, watching a football game and their team is losing and all they do is get mad and cuss and throw potato chips and stuff like that, that you're training yourself through your social alliances on how you should act whenever your team is losing, right? If there's somebody who's always complaining about the weather that you hang around all the time and every time it rains they're just like, I just hate the rain, man. I can't stand it when it rains. You know what's going to happen is you're grooving that into your thinking patterns. The next time it rains, what's going to pop out of your mouth? You're going to be like, oh, I just can't stand the rain. Playing hard, but I've learned to love working hard. Just learn to love whatever it is you're doing in whatever situation or circumstance that you're in, and make sure that you're around the right people that are reinforcing that mindset, reinforcing that language, reinforcing those attitudes and those feelings. And if you're around negative people, you're going to be negative yourself. If you're around positive people, that's going to help to shift you. It has been said many times over that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so look around at the people you're spending the most time with, and if they're not who it is that you want to be, you might need to consider a creative way of changing that. We can get into that on another scope. But number one, if you want to go from negative to positive, shift your language. Number two, stop focusing on how far you have to go. Focus on what it is that you can do next. And number three, get yourself around the right people.